Hi, my name is Tiffany. I'm a labor and delivery nurse for the past 18 years, and I'm here to talk to you today about cord blood donation. Now, you might be wondering, why is a labor nurse talking to me about cord blood donation? And that's an interesting story that I want to share with you. Many years ago, when I was in nursing school, a good friend of mine called me with bad news. Her brother had been diagnosed with leukemia. The family searched for a match, and within the family, they found that my friend was the only match. She donated her bone marrow, and unfortunately, his body rejected it. He ended up getting graft versus host disease. It was looking pretty grim, but he looked into some alternative treatments and he found something called cord blood donation. He was able to receive 2 units of cord blood and it cured him, and he's alive and well today. So what is umbilical cord blood? Umbilical cord blood contains blood-forming stem cells. Patients with certain diseases may need a stem cell transplant, which can come from either banked cord blood or an adult bone marrow donor. Umbilical cord blood can be used to treat over 80 diseases and disorders, including leukemia and lymphoma. Patients who need a stem cell transplant to treat one of those illnesses search for a match on a registry like Be the Match for an adult bone marrow donor or a banked cord blood unit. In 2020, 10% of transplants by Be the Match came from cord blood. Stored cord blood has several benefits over adult bone marrow donors. First of all, we would normally just waste it and it would be just medical waste. It's nice that we are repurposing cord blood and we're able to treat people with it. Also, there's a decreased chance of graft versus host disease, which, if you recall, was part of that story. You don't need a perfect match when you're dealing with cord blood. You can have a less than perfect match, which makes it also very usable. Stored and ready to be shipped out to a patient, as opposed to an adult donor who is going to need to go through a screening process, is going to need to potentially travel. There's a lot of touch points with that, especially in times of COVID. With cord blood donation, there aren't as many touch points and there aren't as many times where people have to go into a medical setting. When you come up with your birth plan, just like you're going to want to address, do you want to go natural or do you want an epidural, you should decide what you want to do with your cord blood. You can either have it wasted as medical waste, or you can do a public cord blood donation or private cord blood banking. I want to talk to you about those 2 options. Public cord blood donation. There's no cost to the family. It's highly regulated. In fact, it's regulated by the FDA. It can save someone's life, and it's 30 times greater than private banking to be used for transplant. It's tested and screened to make sure that it is suitable for somebody who's immunocompromised. Private cord blood banking. The fees for private cord blood banking are anywhere from $4,300 to $5,300. That's including the annual storage fee. Private banks are not required to have accreditation, though some banks choose to. Some may choose this as an insurance policy for their family, and I want to talk about that. So let's use an example. Let's say that I bank my own cord blood because I'm worried about someone in my family developing, God forbid, a malignancy in the future. Well, it turns out if somebody in my family does develop a malignancy, the predisposition for that very malignancy is already in that banked cord blood, and an oncologist is going to be unlikely to use that banked cord blood. For this reason, there are a lot of professional organizations that endorse cord blood donation over cord blood banking. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the quote here is, "Public cord blood banking is the preferred method of using cord blood cells." The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists, also called ACOG, is the professional organization that your provider and many labor nurses belong to. They came out with a strong statement recommending cord blood donation over cord blood banking back in 2017. To ensure that treatment is available to anyone in need, we encourage donations from families with diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds. Basically, we want to make sure that there are units available to treat patients no matter what their ethnicity. 70% of patients will not find a match within their family. Patients are more likely to find a match of a non-relative of the same ethnic background. An African American patient, if they're in need of a stem cell transplant, might look for a bone marrow donor. The chances of finding a bone marrow donor for an African American patient are only 19%, but if they broaden their search to include cord blood donation, they have a 95% chance of finding a match. Again, this has to do with some properties of cord blood donation that make it so it doesn't have to be a perfect match. We need donations from Black and African American, American Indian and Alaska Native, Asian, Hispanic and Latino, Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, and multi-race. So what does the cord blood donation process look like? Paperwork. There's always paperwork involved. You can go to the BloodWorks Northwest webpage and search cord donation, and you will find the paperwork there. They also have the paperwork at your provider's office, and if all else fails, we have it at the hospital, so just ask your nurse for it. Your nurse is going to need to collect some tubes of blood from you to make sure that you don't have anything communicable. After all, we are talking about infusing somebody who's immunocompromised. Once your baby is born and the umbilical cord is clamped, your delivery provider will begin the cord blood donation. If your cord blood is selected for banking, you will receive a call from our trained staff to ask you a few simple screening questions. This is a really nice depiction, I think, of the journey of a cord blood unit. You have your pregnant mom. She goes to the hospital and delivers. The nurses and the providers collect the cord blood donation. It gets sent to BloodWorks Northwest, where they evaluate it to make sure that it's safe to give to someone who's immunocompromised. They call the donor, they thank the donor, and they ask those screening questions that we talked about. That unit gets uploaded to the International Be the Match Registry. It gets matched to a patient who's in need, and voila, transplant. So what do I need to do to sign up? Talk to your prenatal provider about donating your baby's cord blood. Include cord blood donation in your birthing plan. Fill out a short screening form and sign the consent in advance if possible. I will say that 99% of my patients that come to me haven't filled it out in advance, or they've forgotten it at home. That's okay. We do have the forms for you at the hospital. When you're admitted to the hospital, do tell your nurse that you are a cord blood donor. One thing I want you to know is your birth experience is not going to change in any way. After your baby's born, we're going to put the baby up on your chest and you're going to be bonding with your baby. If you've chosen to do delayed cord clamping, your doctor will delay the cord clamping, then cut and clamp the cord, and begin the cord blood donation process. Your baby's identity and your identity will be kept confidential to any potential recipient. Cord blood donation is available at these 5 area hospitals: Swedish First Hill, Swedish Issaquah, Evergreen, Overlake, and Valley Medical Center. I love this quote: "Donating umbilical cord blood is a simple, safe way to make the birth of your child into someone else's second chance." Congratulations on the birth of your baby, and thank you for considering cord blood donation.